challenge. Anna, welcome. We had a few others join. Anna and Krishna and Johnny Didi's with us. Angel just joined us. Welcome, everyone. So we're just reflecting, right, on how Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada appeared on the day of Nandotsav. So our Gurudev's comment was, so on this day of Nandotsav in Vrindavan, there was this wonderful festival, and there was this very kind of like free mood, very joyful and free type of mood where, all the cowherd men and women, they're dancing and singing, and all these milk products are flying all over the place. And so our Gurudev, he expressed this vision, right, that that Krishna sent Swami Maharaj to this world on the day of Nandotsav with the idea that he will spread Krishna consciousness in this type of spirit, right? In this type of free mood, free spirit, free loving spirit, to spread Krishna consciousness in that way, no prejudice, no sectarianism, and so on. That was one very nice comment Srila Govinda Maharaj made. So anyway, some short reflections on that, on these holy days coming up. And then to go to our questions, our topics for today, have it open here. Really super nice questions. The first one is thinking of and I'm going to make, Mahaprabhu, I'm going to make you a co-host just in case anything happens. Okay. First topic, thinking of the difference between emotion and devotion. Emotion is more from the mind, devotion from the heart, question mark. So this is very nice, and this is something that our Gurudev Srila Govinda Maharaj spoke about on a few occasions that I know of. The difference between emotion and devotion. There was one phrase he used in particular, Sachi Didi in London. I think it was something he told her personally, that we need a promotion from emotion to devotion. I liked that very much. We need a promotion from emotion to devotion. And I've seen a few places where Gurudev spoke about this, and he gave a very nice explanation. One thing that he said about the difference between these two things is that devotion is steady, right? Emotion is something, and yes, I would agree with what you said. Emotion is coming more from the mental plane, and devotion, you can say from the heart, but the word heart also can have so many different meanings, right? Depending on context. You could say coming from a deeper place of the soul, right? True devotion, you're tapping into the soul's actual wealth, the soul's property. And so this was one point that he made, that emotion is something that's flickering, right? That and we experience sometimes, right? That, for example, someone may be inspired for a month, right? And then you never hear from them again, right? Or something like that. Or, they show some burst of interest, burst of enthusiasm, and then forget about it, right? It's something coming, the attraction is based on something more superficial, right? So it's not steady, right? Whereas the nature of devotion is to be steady, to be persistent. And real devotion is also something that will grow, right? It may just be in tiny increments, but it will develop, right? There's one expression, I think it's in Srimad Bhagavatam, bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya, which means devotion comes from devotion. And generally that's interpreted to mean that we get devotion from the devotees, right? From those who have devotion. But our Gurudev also gave his own interpretation of that phrase, that if someone has like a little drop of real devotion, then it will grow, right? The nature of real devotion is that it will grow, it will develop, the attraction, the attachment that will develop, right? Then another explanation our Gurudev gave about the difference between these two things, emotion and devotion, is he said that when there's real devotion, there's attachment and there's genuine interest. And he gave this example, very nice example. Let's say you wake up, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, and you're in the temple, nothing's happening, right? Normally in our temples in India, morning arati will be around 4:30, right? So you wake up at 5, the arati should already be going on, but nothing's happening. So then what do? Oh, they'll work it out. It's their problem. I'll go back to sleep, right? Or do you like make an effort? Or another case scenario is later on in the day, you go and complain about the pujari. Hey, what happened to the pujari? He didn't do the puja this morning, right? That would be one response. But Gurudev said, like, the real mood of devotion is that you'll go out and try and find out what's happening and see if they need help. Like, like the difference between being a spectator and actually being a player, right? It's easy to be on the sidelines and gossip and make your opinion and so on, or criticize. That's one thing, but what about actually getting involved in the game and actually having a presence and actually making a difference, right? So I liked that analogy very much. There was this cool thing that came up on my Facebook feed the other day, which I liked very much. And it was showing these different responses that people have to situations. And it was illustrated very nicely, showing different doorways and then people lining up in front of the doorways. And then I think the first one was to gossip about something. It was like long line of people. No, then the next one was to criticize, right? Then there was another one like to sympathize. And then there's increasingly less and less people behind these doorways. And then the last one was to actually help, there was like 2 people behind that doorway. Like something happens in the world and most people are going to gossip about it or criticize it or whatever, right? Then there will be people who will be sympathetic or might give advice, less people. And then who actually will get involved and try and help you? Very few, right? So something like that, when there's real devotion, then we're actually ready to get our hands dirty in a sense, like actually get involved and give my time and give my effort to improving the situation, whatever it may be, whether there's some practical service necessity, whether it's in regards to improving our own sadhana or whatever it may be, right? But it's not just an armchair exercise, right? But we're actually ready to put the effort in, right? And do something about it, right? That's another way that our Gurudev explains that. So, but ultimately, we're praying. That's another thing, right? Devotion is a gift, right? We're praying for that, and we're serving those who have that, right? And I would say generally we're all a mixture, right? That there may be some tiny drop of real devotion within us, and then that's mixed in with some emotion also, right? It's not a black and white matter, right? But we're steadily trying to go on with our practice, and we're in the department of prayer and begging, right? Begging for mercy, begging for grace. And ultimately, devotion is the property, at the highest level, devotion is the property of Srimati Radharani, right? That is her treasure. It's not actually Krishna's property. It's a funny thing if you think about it. Krishna is not Krishna conscious. Devotion is not the property of Krishna, but it's the property of his devotees, right? And so we are beggars of the devotees of Krishna. We are begging for what is their property. It is their gift to give, right? But anyway, those are some, some general benchmarks, you could say, that real devotion is steady and and is expressed through practical, there's a practical expression of it, right? That we are really genuinely trying to put the effort in. Another way, one other thing that comes to mind, our Gurudev mentioned, is that in devotion, there's a, how can we say it? I suppose going back to that point about being practical, right? Because another way he put it was, we've seen sometimes our devotees, they, in the height of their enthusiasm, they may give all their money away, and then they don't have enough money to, take the bus home. That happens. That happened with Ananda Krishna just a few weeks ago. Gave away all his money, didn't have money for buying a toothbrush, I spoke to my friend Isha Bandhu Prabhu in Australia the other day, and he was telling me how once he was in India for a few months, and he, gave away all his money to Gurudev. Then he bought a lot of things for the temple back in Australia, goes to the airport without a single rupee to his name, not a note of cash or coin in his pocket. And he gets there, and it turns out he's overstayed his visa by a few days. And so they deny him his, exit, and they make him turn in his passport, and he has to go to another office to go pay a fine and whatever, right? And then to be able to leave. But he doesn't even have a rupee to take the bus back to the temple. So he ended up having to walk all the way from the airport to the temple in Calcutta. And he, and he goes to our Gurudev, and our Gurudev like ended up giving him money. And I know a few other cases happened to Divya Shakti also. She'd probably be mad at me for telling you, but I think it's beautiful. She was Gurudev's collector, and she'd give him thousands of dollars, but there was one time she'd given him her last dollar and last rupee. She didn't, then it's time for her to leave. She realized she didn't have money for the taxi to get to the airport. So anyway, these things happen. But our Gurudev said, actually, we need to think practically, that if I'm giving, it's nice, I want to give a donation to my guru, but I also have to make sure I have money to get home, or money to get to the airport or whatever it is.
Don't want to go home.
So you have to like think long term. You could think of it like that. Think practically and think long term. And it's not just about like that burst of enthusiasm in that moment, but real devotion is coming from a deeper place, right? It doesn't have to be a big outburst or a big demonstration. Not to diminish the glories of those devotees who gave everything. I think it's so beautiful. But just to say, it's not the final solution, right? Not something for everyone to do. So yes, it is practical, you could say, thinking practically and deeply according to the circumstances, what is appropriate, right? And how to express our devotion towards, Hari, Guru, and Vaishnava. Let's see, Ash has a comment. In order to serve next week, you need to be able to eat tomorrow. That's a good one. Thank you. That just summarized everything I just said in one sentence. Thank you. Perfect. We want to serve every day, right? We want to continue with our practice for a lifetime, many lifetimes. So we have to think like that, right? Not just this moment. So that's one reflection. Let's see. Then the other question, thinking of increase your negativity. Yeah, this is always a tricky one. right? Because it sounds bad, right? It sounds increase your negative side, like outside of our like discourse, outside of our even maybe it's just yeah, I think it's exclusive to Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat, that we hear this terminology, increase your that's something I think Srila Sridhar Maharaj has particularly discussed. Right. So outside of like the context of the community of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat, it sounds pretty odd, right? Increase your negative side, right? So and understandably, it's very easily misunderstood. Oh, welcome Somya Sham and Vijay Prabhu tuning in from Limerick. We just heard some news from Suvasini Didi of the festivals there. It was very nice.
Thunderbolts, the Shakti, Thunderbolts, all the devotees, joy.
That
So,
Yeah, we were very happy to hear from Suvasini about the programs there. Sounds very glorious.
by her grace, her mercy, we had a beautiful retreat in Kiltegan, and it was very, very beautiful. So yeah.
You're remembering the time we were with you as well once there.
Yeah. Yeah. Thunderbolts.
Dandavat. Very nice. Happy to see you both. So yeah, increase your negative tendency, right? It sounds quite strange. But actually the Srila Sridhar Maharaj is using these terms of negative and positive almost in a scientific sense, right? Like in a scientific, there's negative charge and positive charge, right? The earth emits a negative charge. These are scientific terms, right? It's not just negative is bad, positive is good, as generally those words are used. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj is using in this sense, in almost a scientific type of way. So what he means by negativity is you could think of it in this way as Shakti and Shaktiman, right? That we are all Shakti. We are the energy of the Lord. And Krishna is Shaktiman. He's the possessor of Shakti, right? Purusha Prakriti, right? Male and female even. Krishna is the absolute male. We are all female, Shakti. So what is the nature of Shakti? What is the nature of female in the deepest sense? It means the yielding, the nature of yielding, the nature of submission, right? The nature of giving, the nature of surrender, the nature of receptivity, right? We can think of it in that way, that we are emptying ourselves of our ego and increasing that submissive tendency. And this healthy emptiness, you could say, to receive, right? That we are embracing our finite nature, right? We're not ashamed to be finite beings. We're owning our finiteness. We're owning our smallness, right? And we're happy to be small. We're happy to be insignificant, and thereby increasing our receptivity, right? We are increasing our capacity to receive, right? Krishna is the positive charge, and we are representing the negative side of receiving, right? Also of yielding, of surrendering. So, this is something that can help us unlimitedly in our spiritual life. In a simple sense, we can also say humility, right? Humility is an expression and embracing of our negative characteristic. That we are recognizing and embracing our limited, fallible, tiny nature, right? Feeling our need for grace, right? For being free from our ego and and being open to receiving grace from above, right? This is what is meant by the negative characteristic that Srila Sridhar Maharaj talks about. No. Let's see here. Is that, let's see, there are some more things in our chat here. Negative meaning, cannot feel it, empty yourself. Okay. Does that explanation make sense to everyone? That
Yes.
okay. How does that hit you, Kirtida? Yeah.
Hit me very hard and very good. It was very nice.
Hmm.
We are units of receptance. We want to have when learning to give. Then I think we must learn to give.
Hmm.
Maybe.
Yes, yes. Giving, receiving, are, I would say all those things are associated. And I think primarily what Srila Sridhar Maharaj means by this phrase is the spirit of humility. You know, say that we're not blowing ourselves up, you know, puffing ourselves up, but we are really feeling our smallness, right? And our limited nature, our finite nature, and feeling the need for grace, feeling the need for help from above, help from Guru and Vaishnava. So, like that.
Feeling very finite in the ocean of the infinite.
What did you say?
I'm feeling very finite in the ocean of infinite.
And the thing is, you know, the more that we you know, embrace that feeling of smallness, then the more we're actually capable of receiving, right? That there's like space within us, you know, we're not full, we're not overly full of our own false ego, but we're inviting, by feeling our own small nature, we are inviting shelter, we are inviting grace from above. Let's see. Nazar says, what is ontological source for negative? If Krishna is positive and his energy is negative, is there any neutral source? Well, neutral may be Tatasta, no. Neutral may be Brahman, right? I think that would be my answer to that. Neutral may be, because Brahman is Krishna without his Shakti, actually. What do you think, Nazar?
Very hard to say.
That's my thought. Krishna is positive and his energy is negative. Yeah, I would say Brahman. You know, Gurudev, he told us about, I mean, it's a very intelligent question. Very nice question. Maybe someone else more intelligent can answer it properly. But you know, Gurudev, we heard of this one. Actually, Srila Sridhar Maharaj told this story. Our Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, you know, he could be very playful. And sometimes he liked to tease people. And sometimes he liked to kind of yeah, let's just say tease, you know. But there was this one time he asked, who was it? It was someone this is in the early days of the Mott, right? Let's say 1950s, around that era. And our Gurudev asked this to some senior devotee. I don't remember if it was a godbrother of Srila Sridhar Maharaj or it was some other senior members of the Math. No, probably they were godbrothers of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. But our Gurudev, he was like kind of playing with them. And he asked them this question, can God commit suicide? And they were a little angry at the question, and they just responded, what kind of a question is this? This is offensive. And our Gurudev said, well, if you don't know the answer, I can tell you the answer. And our Gurudev said, he commits suicide in the Brahma Jyoti. Because think about it, in the Brahma Jyoti, he loses his personality. He has no personality in the Brahma Jyoti. So that would be my answer. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj also mentioned, Krishna without his Shakti is almost Brahman, right? Almost Brahman conception. Technically, it is called Vasudev, right? That is mentioned also in Bhagavad Gita, that after Brahman, there is one phase of the Lord called Vasudev, right? That is Krishna alone. And that is next to Brahman conception, right? And so, that aspect of Krishna, we're not so interested in, right? And that is why we always worship Krishna with his potency, right? There's that playful quarrel with those parrots, right? The Shuka and Shari, right? Have you heard that? These two parrots, Shuk and Shari. The Shuk is the male parrot, and he's always on the side of Krishna. And Shari is the female parrot, always on the side of Radharani. And sometimes they have these like playful quarrels. And Shari is always like advocating for Radharani's supreme position, and Shuk is always advocating for Krishna's position. And so like this, they go back and forth. And there's one Amar Krishna Giridhari Chilo. But my Krishna, he lifted Govardhan Hill. And then Shari responds, Amar Radha Shakti Sancharilo. Yeah, because my Radha gave him the power to do that, right? And then there's another one, Amar Krishna Madan Mohan, my Krishna, he is so beautiful. He's the bewilderer of Cupid, right? Cupid bewilders the whole world. And my Krishna, he bewilders Cupid. And then the female parrot, she responds, oh, but only because my Radha, she gave him that beauty, that charm, something like that. So it is next to Radharani that Krishna is beautiful, is Madan Mohan, so charming, he can bewilder Cupid. So those are my thoughts on that topic. Well, we still have a little bit of time. Anyone else want to? Oh, Gangalila has her hand raised. Please share.
I was like, how does that work again? So I've put all kinds of hands there. Yes, so something came up at I'm listening in with Sri Lanka in Salt Lake City in the morning class, and something came up, and it's really kind of spinning in my head, and I don't understand it, and it's my fault versus Krishna's will. So is it Krishna's will when I make my mistakes, or is that my free will, so I make all these mistakes? Or I don't know, even my question's coming out right. In my mind, it is a big question, but I'm not sure if I can verbalize it. Does that make any sense?
Can you just say it one more time, please?
Yeah, so it's the short version is my mistakes versus Krishna's will. So is it Krishna's will when I make mistakes, or is that my will? And is that mistakes, or can I move around going like, oh God, it was such a big mistake, and I can tell myself, oh yeah, no, that's just Krishna's way of trying to teach me a lesson, or is it just plainly my mistake? I don't know. It's something like, it is a question inside of me, but I'm not sure if I can express it properly.
Yeah, it's a tricky topic. It's a tricky topic for sure. And you know, I think this is something, you know, this also ties into the whole concept of free will, right? Which, as far as I know, is a huge topic in the worlds of theology. I think probably Midori Lila can confirm that, you know. So, you know, it's not something to be made light of, you know. It is a complex thing. But I think we can also approach it, you know, ultimately we are worshiping the ideal of jnana shunya bhakti, right? Knowledge-free devotion. We try to understand as best as we can, right? We try to engage our brain power as much as we can, but ultimately we are trying to move forward in a practical way, right? So the way that I see it in a simple way is there's direct and there's indirect, right? And this is also mentioned in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, right? You were just looking at the first verse, right? And in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, this is mentioned, you know, directly and indirectly, you know, Krishna's will is behind everything, right? So we can think that indirectly everything's happening according to Krishna's will, right? In the sense that he's letting us play things out according to our desires. We're creating our whole world of karma, right? And he's allowing that to go on. He can interfere if he wants, right? He always has that possibility. But for the most part, he's only directly interfering in the cases of those who are his exclusive devotees, or you could also say those who are connected with the line of divine grace, right? And connected with his beloved devotees, then yes, he may interfere, right? But otherwise, for the most part, he's letting us go on as we choose to go on, because he wants us to choose to approach him when and if we want, right? So in our case, in the case of persons like ourselves, right, we're very much a mix, right? We're still coming with a big bag of karma, and that's largely what's determining our day-to-day circumstances, right? But at the same time, we have connected with the current of divine grace, right? We have connected with genuine Vaishnava saints, you know, who are genuine devotees of the Lord. And so it is possible that there may be some cases when there is some intervention of higher grace, right, in our lives. Now, how can we know which is which? No, well, we can. We can, right? You know, how, but we can think, you know, I like to think of it as like we're spiritual opportunists, and like whatever is coming our way, we're trying to face it with a positive spiritual mentality, right? You know, I don't know why this came. I don't know if it came as a result of my karma. I don't know if it came because of some divine intervention, but either way, I'm going to face it in a Krishna conscious way, right? There's one, if you're listening to Salt Lake classes, then you're probably familiar with this verse. Sudarshan especially likes to talk about Tattenu Kampam Susamik Shamano Bunjane Vatma Kritam Vipakam, right? And it's explaining how the devotees, they're you know, whatever difficult circumstances come to them, they're always, first of all, holding themselves responsible, And second of all, always trying to see how the Lord's grace is also behind that, and how this is coming to help them in some way, right? This is coming to adjust them in some way. And that's a very valuable verse for us. Srila Sridhar Maharaj describes it as the greatest regulation that's given in any scripture, right? Zero complaint against the environment, just seeking positive vision, positive grace, just collecting goodness. That's one way Srila Sridhar Maharaj puts it in one place, collecting goodness from the environment. So that's a very helpful verse. Now, little side note here, which maybe confuses the conversation more, don't know. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he's one of the great scriptural commentators in our line. He has a commentary in that verse saying that the great devotees, they don't actually have karma, but the difficulties they face, they're actually arranged by the Lord in order to show some example to the world, right? Or to show some teaching to the world, or to show the world how glorious his devotee is, right? That his devotee has faced this situation in such a positive way. What a beautiful example for others, right? And we can think of, some famous examples are the Pandavas, right? Draupadi, right? What trials and tribulations they faced, but they never lost their faith in Krishna, Prahlad Maharaj, and so on. So that's an interesting comment that he's saying the devotees don't actually have karma, but the Lord is. Oh yeah, and then I think he also mentions that the Lord may also engineer circumstances that will increase their faith, right? That will increase their devotion, that will increase their attachment. So, in our case, we can't really be sure, right? Whether this is our karma, whether this is an intervention, a test to try and help increase our attachment, increase our faith, right? We can't be sure. But either way, we're trying to increasingly view everything in our life through the lens of Shastra Chakshu, right? Means the eye of scripture, right? The eye of revelation, right? We're trying to increasingly see everything according to that, right? And respond accordingly, right? So, and we can also pray like that, oh Lord, I don't know what this is, but give me the strength and give me the vision to face it in the right way, right? Either way, I'm gonna try and capitalize on this. I'm gonna try and capitalize this to improve my spiritual life, right? I'm gonna face this, I'm gonna take advantage. I'm gonna take advantage of this circumstance and capitalize on it for my spiritual gain, for my spiritual wealth, for my spiritual growth in that way, wherever it came from, It's all an opportunity in the end, isn't it? Through the right vision, everything becomes a positive opportunity, positive situation. Is that helpful, Gangalila?
Very much so. It's like an antidote for anxiety in a way. And it was, the question came up while I was listening, and it wasn't a properly addressed. So I was really, it kind of gave my head like a spin. And now I feel, so if I'm able to take that into my heart, that's a real great way to soothe anxieties of the mind, actually.
Yeah, and we will be a little shy to think that, this is our Gurudev. I heard he made a joke about this once too, because our devotees, we can get a little silly about this, and like everything Krishna's will, like I got a cold, Krishna's will, I saw the sunrise, Krishna's divine, like everything is like, are we like on like, first name basis with Krishna? Like, are we like calling buddies? Like, are we like in that type of intimate connection with Krishna? Like, we can get a little silly, us devotees, with all that, it's all divine. So, we, for the most part, we will be a little shy, to think that, oh, this is a divine circumstance, or this is directly Krishna's will. Indirectly, it's all Krishna, right? Karma is Krishna's arrangement. There's one article of Saraswati Thakur where he's explaining karma's mercy, right? Karma is Krishna's arrangement to purify us, right? So indirectly, our karma is coming from Krishna, right? It is his mercy in that sense. But to think directly, like this is his, a direct divine intervention, we will be a little shy about that, There is another example that came to mind, but now I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, what I wanted to say was I love these verses so much. I in Srimad Bhagavatam, prayer of Nanda Maharaj. Some of you may have seen, I just made a little post about these verses. And in those verses, this is Nanda Maharaj, Krishna's father. So even Nanda Maharaj, he's not thinking, oh, I'm a divine being, I'm beyond karma and all that, and he's very beautiful and touching verses where Nanda Maharaj is saying, whatever comes to me according to my karma or according to the higher will, he says, my only prayer is that my attachment to you, Krishna, will increase. That actually, he's speaking to Uddhava. That's another thing. So he's like saying Uddhava is Krishna's friend in Dwarka, right? And Uddhava, right? You remember Krishna sends Uddhava to Vrindavan to console his family and friends in Vrindavan, right? And so then there's some discussion between Nanda Maharaj and Uddhava. And Nanda Maharaj is like speaking in such a humble way, to seeing Uddhava as like more intimate than him with Krishna. And this is one of his expressions, that, whatever comes to me in my wandering, he says, karma bir brahmyamananam, wherever I may wander, according to my karma, according to higher will, let that be. Let that go on as it's supposed to go on. But my only prayer is that my attachment to Krishna will increase. So in that way, right? Like whatever comes to us, wherever it came from, why it came, we don't know, but let it all go on. We only hope that the outcome of it all will be that we can have more devotion, more faith, more attachment. Right? That's what's actually substantial and meaningful. So, Kirtida has had her hand raised. Kirtida, did you want to say something else? Oh, you're muted.
So, it dawned on me a verse from the Gita. And I found some peace. Better do your own duty and not another's. Do your own duty perfect and not another's perfect. And I found some peace in that. It's very beautiful. So in this life, I do what I am supposed to do. And then we'll see.
Yes.
Imperfect, but I do what I am created to do, I think.
Yes, that's very nice the way you phrased it. There's much solace. There's comfort.
Comfort, yes. It was
to that conclusion.
Peace. I found some peace in that.
You're right, actually. That's a beautiful meditation. Because yes, it's easy to be disappointed or frustrated with ourselves in different ways. why can't we do more or do this or do that? But you're absolutely right. We can only do what is our duty and what is given to us, right? We can't do more than that.
Yes.
So,
And not strive to do other things, but accept what you are.
try to do perfectly what is on your plate. Right?
Yes. Yes.
and to find the beauty that's within that and the joy that's within that, right? Yeah, that's a beautiful meditation, Kirtida.
Thank you.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Well, maybe it's a good place to stop for today. Does anyone else want to share any last words before we close for today? And wishing you all a happy Krishna Janmashtami and Nandotsav. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Raksha Hardev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Shri A.C. Bhakti Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki Jai, Shri Krishna Janmashtami ki Jai, all the assembled devotees, sincere seekers ki Jai, Shri Harinam ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Haribo.
श्री युक्त विशाखा देवदासी की जय
Jai Guru.
Haribo.
Haribo.